Hello friends and welcome to this video. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Miriam and I am so excited to be filming today as I will be sharing all the books I've acquired in the last few months. Very excited to be filming this video. It's been a little bit since I filmed my last one and I was actually planning on not filming again until January or February, but I missed booktube and I have no set plans on, how many uploads I'll have per month or anything like that. I'm just going to film when I can, when I have the time. And I wanted to get this video out first because there are so many books that I just want to put away on my shelves that I've been just piling up in my room, but I will also be filming a video just kind of catching up and I guess discussing what the channel will be like in 2026, what my plans are, some goals I have, and just talk a little bit about I guess my reading life and what's been going on and why I've been struggling a little bit, and why I needed to take a step back from booktube. But I will share that video later on in the month, hopefully before Christmas, but we shall see when I get around to that. But let's just move on to the book haul. And there are a lot of books. There, I think, are about 50, which is insane. It is an ungodly number of books, but I received some birthday gifts in November and I also got most of these thrifted and a lot of them with store credit. So I'm really, really happy with the fact that not a lot of money was spent on a lot of these books, but it's still a crazy number of books. And I'm just looking at them behind the camera. It is wild how many there are, and I'm gonna have to figure out where they will all go. I will say I do unhaul every now and again, and I don't share unhauls just because I'll kind of look through my shelves, and if there's a book I have read and don't think I'll read again, I'll take it off. If there's a book that I'm just not interested anymore, I'll take it off my shelves. And I don't really wait to film unhauls, so I just bring them to a local used bookstore and they take the books and give me store credit, which has always been such a lovely, lovely thing, and they are really, really good with their store credit. So I've accumulated quite a bit of credit over the last year. All of that credit went to some incredible books that I am so excited to share with you all. I really don't need to give an explanation, but I thought I would. Anyways, grab yourselves a warm beverage. I am working away on my morning coffee as I am thankfully not at work today, but make yourselves comfortable and let's go over all these books that I've acquired. These books have been accumulating since the end of summer, so there are a lot to go through and I'll try to be very quick with each. And I'll save the birthday gifts for the very end. So I'll start off with just the other books, I guess, the ones that I mostly thrifted. The first few here were not thrifted, but I'm very, very excited to add them to my collection. And this first one here, I've already started. It is Consider the Lilies, Finding Perfect Peace in the Character of God by Johnny Ardivanis. And he's someone that I've really been enjoying listening to. He has a podcast and a lot of YouTube kind of sit down type discussions with other, I guess, pastors, and he will discuss a variety of topics that just have to do with our walk with God, and he's a very good speaker. And I was so excited when I heard about this book, just a little bit about what's been going on, a little bit. I really took a step back from all things distractions, and even reading in October, I was really struggling. And when I came across this book, I just knew it was the perfect book for the season of life that I'm in. And I am almost halfway through. I've been savoring every chapter, just taking my time, going back and rereading and highlighting. And I find that it's one of those books where it's so practical and very, very easy to apply to my day-to-day. And that's exactly what I needed. But it's so steeped in biblical truth. And I'm loving it so, so much. So if it sounds interesting, it's one I highly recommend. As someone who really steers clear of, I guess, Christian living, Christian nonfiction, it's just something that I struggle to, I don't know if trust is the right word, but I really struggle with Christian nonfiction, but this is a very good one and has been very helpful for my current season in life. So that is the first book. I am so excited for this next book. I also purchased In the Lord I Take Refuge by Dane C. Ortland. It is 150 daily devotions through the Psalms, and this is one that I intend to start January 1st and go through 150 days of being in the Psalms in the first few months of the year, and I am so excited. I have read the first one just to see kind of the, I guess, style that the author would take and how he would dissect each psalm and discuss it, and I really liked what I read in the first psalm. But anyways, I'm very excited to start this off with the intention of reading it every day from January 1st. I may fall behind a little bit. I may catch up. I don't know. I don't know if it'll take me the full 150 days. I may finish it early. I may finish it later in the year, but either way, this is one that I really want to prioritize in 2026, and I am so beyond excited. And it's also just a beautiful book in general. Let me take off the dust jacket. We have the beautiful green and gold dust jacket, which, if you don't know, these are my two favorite colors ever. And then underneath is this beautiful brown, and I am obsessed. I almost want to just display it with just this spine, but either way, this is a beautiful book, and just as beautiful on the inside as it is on the outside, and I am so excited to read it. This next book I could not pass up when I saw that it was $12 at Marshall's, which is so random, and I find Marshall's often will just have beautiful books and classics especially for such inexpensive prices, and I really had to exercise self-control because they had more in this edition. And I'm talking about Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy, which is currently my favorite Hardy novel. And this edition, actually, I can't remember if I shared this in my last book haul. I don't even remember when that last book haul was, but I feel like I already shared this. Anyways, I'll share it again. This book is beautiful, and it was $12, and I had to pick it up. It is absolutely stunning. I'm obsessed with it. There's a beautiful illustration there of Tess. There aren't any illustrations throughout, but I really love the paper quality, and the font size is decent. It's not too small for me, and it's just a beautiful book. And I don't think there's anything wrong with collecting different editions of your favorite novels. So I was very excited to bring this home, and I just love it. And I love the, I guess it's like a cornflower blue. It is just beautiful. I could stare at it all day. Next up is a book that I treated myself to for my birthday, and I kind of took a little bit of a risk because I've never read anything by this author. And this book shipped from England, and it is one of the most beautiful books I've ever seen. I'm obsessed with the cover, but I think I will love it. I read the summary, and it's one of those books where when I read the summary, I just have this inner assurance that it's going to be one that if I don't at least love and give 5 stars, I will at least appreciate because of the themes discussed. And I've heard this author's writing is absolutely incredible. And I'm talking about They Were Sisters by Dorothy Whipple. I just need to take a moment. This is one of the most beautiful covers. I am obsessed. But when I read what this book is about, I had to grab it. And I have, like I said, read nothing by Dorothy Whipple, but the people that I know who have read from her love her writing, and I'm very excited but have high hopes. I'm not a fan of knowing a lot of detail before diving into a book, especially one that deals with a lot of complex themes. But what I do know is this book is about 3 sisters who each marry a very different type of man, and they're all kind of dealing with married life in their own way, and it explores the type of marriage they have and if that leads to, I guess, you know, a peaceful existence or isolation from family, that kind of thing. It deals with some pretty deep topics, and the fact that it has 3 sisters as the main characters, I just was immediately intrigued, and I love books that deal with sisterhood as well. I love anything to do with sisters, and I just needed to grab this book, so I'm very excited to read it. This is one that I'm actually hoping to read in January. It's a priority for me for this winter. So that is They Were Sisters. I also have a couple of Arthurian books here, and there may be more later on in the haul, but 2026 is going to be a year in which I dive into Arthurian legend, and I will have a video all about that, so I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but I ended up purchasing Sir Gawain. I think it's Gawain, not sure. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It's a very short little book. It is a poem, I believe, a narrative poem. I don't know really what it's about, but I have heard amazing things and I'm very excited to read it. And then I also got Idylls of the King by Alfred Lord Tennyson. I just finished a massive collection of his poetry that I have been working on for the last couple of years, and I plan on reading Idylls with my friend Amy in April, I believe. So this is also a collection of Arthurian poems by Tennyson, and I'm very excited to read it. Next is Endless Night by Agatha Christie. This is one that I meant to read in the fall, but just didn't get around to it, so I might read it this winter. This one I've heard is one of her most gothic stories. It's less of a cozy whodunit and more of a gothic thriller type story. And I feel like winter is still a great time to read it. So that is an Agatha Christie I'm very excited about. And I really don't like reading the summaries of Agatha Christie novels. I like going in knowing next to nothing. So that is what I will do with this one. Next is a book by a Christian fiction author that I've been really enjoying in the last few years. She is one that I kind of didn't love at first, but then I read a trilogy by her that I really, really enjoyed. And I do want to read more of her works, and that is Sarah Sundin. The book here is The Sound of Light. And this one, I was so shocked that it was cheaper on Amazon than on Book Outlet when I looked it up. And basically my friend Elizabeth had read it and just gave it such a stellar review and really, really enjoyed it. So I was curious, and my library didn't have it, but I checked on Amazon and it was $6, which is wild. $6 CAD as well, which is even less in USD. So this one was just randomly very, very cheap, and I snatched it up because of that. And I still haven't read it, but one day, and I'm very excited. It is set during World War II, as most of her books are, if not all. And it looks like it has to do with the Danish resistance, which is interesting. I don't think I've read a World War II story set in Denmark, but I'm assuming there will be a romance, and I am just very excited. So when the World War II story itch is there, this is probably one I will pick up very quickly. The rest of these books, besides the ones I received for my birthday, which again I'll share at the end, the rest of these were all thrifted, which is insane, and there are a lot. So I will try to go as rapid fire as I can, and we'll see how long this takes, but I will try to be quick. I found some Oxford World's Classics books, which it's my favorite classics edition, and I was so excited when I found these at the local used bookstore. A couple of them were actually from an antique shop as well. So we have The Professor by Charlotte Bronte, and this one is in near perfect condition. And it is the only main novel by Charlotte Bronte that I have yet to read. So this one is one I'm very excited about. I am currently rereading Jane Eyre, and then I think I will read this afterwards. I really don't know anything about it, but I love Charlotte Bronte's writing, so I'm very much looking forward to it. Next, we have A Sicilian Romance by Anne Radcliffe, and the only Anne Radcliffe book I have read is The Mysteries of Udolpho, and I really need to read more from her. Her writing is just beautiful, and I've been very much inspired after reading Jane Austen's Bookshelf by Rebecca Romney. She discussed Anne Radcliffe as one of the authors who influenced Austen, and just made me want to read her works even more. So I'm really glad I found A Sicilian Romance. We also have Aurora Leigh by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. This is a narrative poem about a woman named Aurora Leigh, and that is all I know. So I love narrative poems, and I'm very excited for this as well. It says, the social panorama of this first novel extends from the slums of London to the upper classes and includes a number of superb satiric portraits. And I don't want to read too much more, but that is what I'm very, very much looking forward to. I also found Aphra Behn's Oroonoko and other writings. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but she lived in the 17th century, and I had only recently learned about her. It says that she achieved both fame and notoriety in her own lifetime, enjoying considerable success for her plays and her short novel, Oroonoko, the story of a noble slave who loves a princess. And then it says, acclaimed by Virginia Woolf as the first English woman to earn her living by the pen, Behn's achievements as a writer are now acknowledged less equivocally. And this contains Oroonoko, as well as The Fair Jilt, Memoirs of the Court of the King of Bantam, The History of the Nun, The Adventure of the Black Lady, and The Unfortunate Bride, and then some of her poetry as well. So I am very, very intrigued. It's not very long, so I feel like all these stories will be quite short, but I'm curious. And again, I've never read anything by her. I only learned about her recently, and we shall see what I end up thinking about this. I was so happy to find Paradise Lost by John Milton at an antique shop, out of all places. It was just kind of tucked away. It was a very random find, but I was very excited, as it's one that I've been wanting to read for a very long time. I'm so intimidated, and I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, but one day I will read this book, and I'm just so glad to add it to my collection and to not have paid full price for it. So that is Paradise Lost. It's an epic poem. I feel like everyone's heard about it at least, but I am very intrigued. This next book I'm a little nervous to read just because the film adaptation absolutely shattered my heart, and I've seen it a couple times and I can't bring myself to watch it again. It's one of those movies that just, oh my goodness, it wrecked me emotionally. And I'm talking about Testament of Youth by Vera Brittain. And it is her memoir, I guess, of her experience during the Great War and just everything that comes with war, the love and loss that she experienced. And she also served as a nurse, and I'm very, very intrigued. I don't know how emotional the book will be compared to the film. And I don't know if it's told in narrative form or if it's truly just kind of her memoir. Looks like there is some dialogue. But anyways, I am wanting to read it. I'm just nervous too. If any of you have read this book, let me know what you thought and if you think I would enjoy it. Another book I found at that antique shop I just mentioned, and it was, again, randomly tucked away. I just love antique shops. They often have the most random books you wouldn't even expect to find there. And this antique shop in particular is one of my favorites ever. And I found Beowulf, and this one's translated by Seamus Heaney. I love learning about English literature and the history of English literature. And this is one of the most iconic and earliest pieces of English literature, and I need to read it. I don't want to know anything about the story itself, but I'm very excited. And it looks like on one side is the Old English and then the modern translations on the right side. So it'll be very interesting to read. The next 20 or so books were all acquired with store credit, which is so wild, and I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful that I've been able to get a lot of these for free, but, well, not for free, but you know what I mean. It's so nice to not have to spend money and just, you know, bring in some books that you're unhauling and then they give you some books in exchange. It's just wonderful. But I found The Strangest Family by Janice Hadlow, The Private Lives of George III, Queen Charlotte, and the Hanoverians. And I really enjoyed Janice Hadlow's book, The Other Bennet Sister. And I was very intrigued to see that she's also written nonfiction. Now, this is quite a chunker of a book, but I'm very intrigued by Queen Victoria's origins, and George III was her grandfather. So I'm very excited to read this, and I've heard it's really well written, just an amazing exploration of this family, and I am intimidated again. The writing is quite small. We'll see how long it takes me to read this, when I start it, but I'm very intrigued. I've heard it's written in a way that's very lively and not at all dull historical, you know, nonfiction. I do have high hopes for it. I will read the summary. It's not too long. It says, George III came to the throne in 1760 as a man with a mission. He wanted to be a new kind of king, one whose power was rooted in the respect and approval of his people, and he was determined to revolutionize his private life too, breaking with the extraordinarily dysfunctional home lives of his Hanoverian predecessors. For a long time, it seemed as if, against all odds, his great family project was succeeding. Together with his wife, Queen Charlotte, he raised his 15 children in a climate of loving affection. But as they grew older and their wishes and desires developed away from those of their parents, it became harder to maintain the illusion of domestic harmony. The Strangest Family is a tour de force, an epic, sprawling royal family drama filled with intensely realized characters who leap off the page as we are led deep inside the private lives of the Hanoverians. This sounds amazing. I am so excited to read it. I was very excited to find I Was Anastasia by Ariel Lawhon. I read her book, The Frozen River, I think last winter, and absolutely adored it and want to read more by her. So I was very excited to find this book in decent condition. It says, in 1920 in Germany, a young woman bearing an uncanny resemblance to Anastasia Romanov is pulled, shivering and senseless, from a canal in Berlin. Refusing to explain her presence in the freezing water, she is taken to a hospital where an examination reveals that her body is riddled with countless horrific scars. When she finally does speak, this frightened, mysterious woman claims to be the Russian Grand Duchess Anastasia. The questions swirling around Anna Anderson's past and the mystery of Anastasia Romanov's fate chart a saga that spans half a century and touches 3 continents. Every bit as vivid and climactic as it is poignant and enchanting, this novel brings a piece of legendary history to life. I'm very intrigued. I love anything to do with the Romanovs, and I'm just really curious to see how the author spins this tale about Anastasia, so looking forward to it. I also found The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova, and this is one that I'm kind of nervous to read just because of the subject matter, but I've heard that if you love Dracula, it is a must-read. It's a story of a young woman plunged into a labyrinth where the secrets of her family's past connect to an inconceivable evil. The dark 15th century reign of Vlad the Impaler and a time-defying pact that may have kept his awful work alive through the ages. The search for the truth becomes an adventure of monumental proportions, taking us from monasteries and dusty libraries to the capitals of Eastern Europe, in a feat of storytelling so rich, so hypnotic, so exciting that it has enthralled readers around the world. I'm very intrigued, and I've read very few books set in Eastern Europe, and particularly in what is now Romania, which is where my parents were both born. So I am very, very intrigued by this story, and I believe it also has a fantastical element, or is it magical realism? I'm not too sure, but I've heard it's gothic and just perfect for fall and winter. So maybe I'll read it this winter, who knows? If you've read this, please let me know what your thoughts were, but it's another one I was very excited to find. Even though I'm a little nervous to read it, I was still very excited to find it. And this next one I was also very excited to find because I have read another book by this author that I also own, and that is Crow Mary, one of my favorite historical fiction novels. And I found her other book, Kathleen Grissom is the author, I found her book, The Kitchen House. And this one I believe is set circa the Civil War. Okay, so it's actually decades before. It says, at the turn of the 19th century on a tobacco plantation in Virginia, young white Lavinia, who was orphaned on her passage from Ireland, arrives on the steps of the kitchen house and is placed under the care of Belle, the master's illegitimate black daughter. Lavinia learns to cook, clean, and serve food, and cherish the quiet strength and love of her new family. In time, she is accepted into the world of the big house, caring for the master's opium-addicted wife and befriending his dangerous yet protective son. She attempts to straddle the worlds of the kitchen and big house, but her skin color will forever set her apart from Belle and the other slaves. And it looks like this was Kathleen Grissom's debut as well. It's a story of class, race, dignity, deep buried secrets, and familial bonds. That sounds absolutely amazing, and I've heard amazing things about it as well. So I was very happy to find this at the used bookstore as well, and cannot wait to read it. This next book is on the shorter side, and I'm going to try to get to it before Christmas, or at least start it this month, and if it takes me into January, that's totally fine, but I just think this is the perfect time of year to read it, and that is Once Upon a Wardrobe by Patty Callahan. I am so excited to read this book, especially now that I have finished the Chronicles of Narnia. I finished the last book, I think in September, and I just loved it so much and have such an appreciation for C.S. Lewis. So this one, I have heard it is just beautiful and have very, very high hopes. I'm not going to read the summary. It's very, very long, but I also don't want to know too much about the story going in. So we'll see if I can start it before Christmas, and I guess we'll see what I think. Hopefully this will get read soon. I also got Antony and Cleopatra by Shakespeare, of course, and I love the No Fear Shakespeare editions just because they have the original play and then just, I guess, a more easy to understand modern version on the right side. And I am very, very excited to add this to my collection, my ever-growing collection of Shakespeare's plays, which I haven't read very many from. I have to rectify that. I have to stop buying Shakespeare plays and read the ones that I have. But I'm excited to read it at some point. My Shakespeare journey is taking its sweet time. It's going to be a very long journey, but that is okay. I'm just excited to keep collecting the plays as I find them. Earlier, I mentioned Sarah Sundin as an author that I've been enjoying, and I also found Embers in the London Sky. And the reason I was so surprised to find this at that used bookstore is because their Christian fiction section is next to nothing. There's almost nothing there. It's basically just Amish fiction, which I don't like, and really no Christian historical fiction, nothing like Francine Rivers. They don't have books like that. So when I saw this there, oh my goodness, the excitement. I was so, so happy to find it. All I know about this one and all I want to know is there's this young mother who escapes the Netherlands to England during World War II and gets separated from her young son. And it's her story of trying to find him amid the destruction of World War II. And I believe the Blitz happens as well. And I've heard it's such a gut-wrenching and just emotional gut punch of a story, but a really, really great one. So I'm very, very excited for this as well. Back in the spring, I read March by Geraldine Brooks, and it tells the story of Mr. March, who is obviously, you know, the father in Little Women, and he's not very present in Little Women, but this book was definitely a little more brutal and gruesome as it is his story during the Civil War, and it's not a cozy Little Women retelling at all, but a very, very just blunt and real portrayal of the Civil War through Mr. March's perspective. And it was such a well-written book, and I really want to read more by the author Geraldine Brooks. And I found 2 of her books in hardcover at this used bookstore, which I was so excited about. And I don't know if I'll love them, but I couldn't pass them up, especially because they're hardcover and in great condition. I found People of the Book, and this one sounds insane. It sounds so fascinating. It basically takes us across so many different countries as well as different times. So it's not just a dual timeline. We are in Venice in 1609 with a Catholic priest during the Inquisition. Then we're in Tarragona in 1492, in Seville in 1480, in 1996 with a rare book expert, and it's wild. There's just so much exploration of the world in this book, which sounds fascinating to me. And in the 1996 timeline, there's a Hebrew manuscript that was found, and this rare book expert, she finds mysteries within this manuscript and goes on this amazing adventure, I guess, trying to unlock mysteries of the book's eventful past and everything. And I'm just so intrigued. And we also have a gorgeous map there, so I'm very, very intrigued. So yeah, that is People of the Book. And I also found her book Horse, which I don't know anything about this one. It looks like it's triple timeline. So we have Kentucky 1850, New York 1954, and Washington DC 2019. It says a discarded painting in a junk pile, a skeleton in an attic, and the greatest racehorse in American history. From these strands, a Pulitzer Prize winner braids a sweeping story of spirit, obsession, and injustice. I also really love that cover. I'm so excited to add these to my collection, and I'm hoping to read at least one of them in the winter. So that is Geraldine Brooks' People of the Book and Horse. Very excited. I also found Mistress Pat by Ella Montgomery, and it's so old. I love it so much. This is copyright 1935, and it was gifted to someone, as you can see here. It was gifted to a Betty Ray Richards, Christmas of 1937, from Aunt Marguerite and Uncle Charles. I just love finding notes like this in books. I love thinking of the hands that held this book almost 100 years ago. I love that so much. So that is Mistress Pat. I don't know what it's about, but it's Ella Montgomery, all-time favorite author. This is actually the second book story to the Pat of Silver Bush. I think it's a duology. So I do have Pat of Silver Bush, I think. Yes, I do have a mass market paperback of Pat of Silver Bush. So I'll read that first, and then this is the second book. This next book is The White Company by Arthur Conan Doyle. Now, I had no idea he wrote more than just the Sherlock stories. Or if I did, I forgot, but I was very, very excited to find this. And it's also illustrated. There's the inner cover there. I think it's just an adventure story of knights and quests, and I don't believe it's Arthurian, but it definitely has that feel, that medieval feel, and I'm just so intrigued. There are full color illustrations throughout as well. And this one, I didn't see a copyright date. Yeah, it looks like there's no copyright date, but it is such a cool edition. Anyways, I believe this is the first book in a series by Arthur Conan Doyle, and it's not generally the type of book that I gravitate towards, but I'm very intrigued and I want to read everything he's written. He is such an amazing writer, and I guess because I do gravitate towards Arthurian legends, I might enjoy this even if it isn't Arthurian in particular, but I'm very intrigued. So that is The White Company. I also found Vineyard Seasons in the cookbook section by Susan Branch and was so excited. I have none of her books. One day I will have a collection of her books, but they're so hard to find as most of them are out of print, if not all of them. This is just full of recipes and it is just absolutely glorious. Oh my goodness. I love how it's all in her own writing. I love that farmer salad. What I love about Susan Branch is her style, obviously. And like I said, I don't own any other of her books, but I have a cookbook. And it's not an actual cookbook. It is a binder that is meant to be your own cookbook. And I will just insert a clip here of me flipping through it. So as you can see, it is all in her illustration style. It is my absolute prized possession. I've had this for the last few years and I don't have a lot of recipes in it as I'm still working on either, neatly writing out the recipes I've saved or typing them up. As you can see in a few of the recipes, I have them designed on Canva. But like I said, it's my prized possession. This is coming with me wherever I move. I love to cook. I love baking especially. And every time I have a new favorite recipe, it'll go in this book. So This has been something that I've used for the last few years, and I just love Susan Branch's art style. So when I found Vineyard Seasons, I just had to grab it because I never ever find her in the wild. I never find her at used bookstores. She's so hard to find. So I was very excited about this book. It says, interwoven throughout the book are suggestions for romantic evenings, children's parties, homemade gifts, and of course ideas for celebrations for each of the seasons. So I'm very excited. I'll have to look at the winter section, but oh my goodness, this just brings me so much joy. So that is Vineyard Seasons. So the next large collection of books are all by one of my favorite authors of all time. And I found one book in this edition, I believe last year or the year before. And at the time, it was the only book in that edition at this used bookstore. And let me actually just grab it. The author I'm talking about is Anthony Trollope, and the edition is the Folio Society edition, and I believe it's from the 90s. So like I was saying, I found the Belton Estate in the last couple of years at this used bookstore, and it was the lone folio edition of Anthony Trollope's novels. What I absolutely love is how nice and easy it is to read from them. I still haven't read this book, but I just love the feel, the paper quality, the beautiful sprayed edges, the absolutely gorgeous, just gorgeousness that it is. And it also has illustrations throughout. There's an illustration on the inside cover there. This is one of my favorites. Oh my goodness, I love it so much. So needless to say, I love this edition so much. There's another illustration. And the Folio Society editions now, like the newer ones, are so expensive, and a lot of the antiquarian ones as well. But I love how they look. I love the spine so much. And so I walk into the used bookstore with my store credit in hand, and I see a crazy number of Anthony Trollope's books. And my self-control went out the window. Here are 8, and there are 8 more. So I have a total of 16 of these folio editions of Anthony Trollope's books. Now I got 12 of them, and then on my birthday, I open a gift from my mom, and there are 4 more in there. And she had gone back after I purchased the 12. She saw how excited I was about them, and she went back and got 4 more. And thankfully, the 4 that she got are ones that I don't have and ones that I have not read. I've read very little of Anthony Trollope, but out of the books I have read, he's a favorite author. He's one of my favorites. And the joy, the joy that I feel looking at these on my shelves, and I'll insert a clip of how they look on my newer bookshelf, which is a smaller one. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. So we're just gonna quickly go through all of them. I'm not reading summaries. I'm not gonna show illustrations from all of them, but I'll maybe show a few. Now, these ones all have slip cases, which is also wonderful. The Belton Estate that I just showed you does not have a slip case, but these ones do. So first we have La Vendée, which is one of my favorite in terms of how it looks. It's also green like the Belton Estate. So there's La Vendée. I believe this one is set in France, but there's the inside illustration there. So that's the first one. Then we have the Landleaguers. We also have the MacDermots of, I think, Ballycloran, and this one is one of his Irish stories. We have Rachel Ray, one of his longest ones, He Knew He Was Right. I love the inner illustration of this one. Yeah, this one is huge. Lady Anna. I have a few shorter ones here. We have Sir Harry Hotspur, Linda Tressel, and Nina Balatka. And I've heard that these ones, my friend Elizabeth, I had asked her if there were any Anthony Trollope novels that are good to read during the winter. And I believe she said these ones were 2 of the sadder ones, and they're just great for the winter seasons. So we have these 2. One of them I'm going to try to read probably in February, just because in January I'm reading The Way We Live Now. But we have these 2 as well. Another massive one, but I love the color of this one, Orley Farm. Now this one I have in paperback, but it is my favorite novel out of the Barsetshire series, so I really wanted a special edition of it as well, and that is Framley Parsonage. I think this is Miss Dunstable, but there's an illustration. And then the 12th one is Ayala? I don't know if it's Ayala? Ayala's Angel? Ayala's Angel? Ayala? I don't know. Ayala's Angel sounds a little better than Ayala, but there's that one. And then, like I said, my mom was just a gem and went back and picked 4 more. and she didn't even realize that she picked 4 from the Palliser series, which just, it made me so happy. She could have picked 4 random ones, but they were all from the Palliser series, and I have the first one, Can You Forgive Her, in paperback, but she got, I think, books 2, 3, 5, and 6 or something like that. But anyways, we have the Prime Minister, Phineas Redux. Now I don't know the actual order of these, but there's that one. I do know the Duke's Children is the final one in the series. And last but not least, Phineas Finn. So those were the 4 that my mom surprised me with for my birthday, and I am forever grateful. Okay, so that was it for all the books I've acquired from September up until now, and the ones that I thrifted, and then a few that were brand new. And then I have 10 more books here that I am so thankful to have been gifted for my birthday, and I'm so beyond grateful, truly. And this first book here, I actually have no idea who gifted it to me because it arrived from Amazon. I did not order it. No one in my family ordered it. And I'm just scratching my head as to who purchased it. So if one of you did, please do let me know. But that is The Medieval Mind of C.S. Lewis, How Great Books Shaped a Great Mind by Jason Baxter. Now, this book, again, it didn't come with a note. I looked through the book a few times. In the bag, there was nothing, no note, nothing. So again, if you purchase this book for me, please let me know in the comments. But I am so excited for this book. So whoever purchased it, thank you so much. It says, many readers know C.S. Lewis as an author of fiction and fantasy literature, including the Chronicles of Narnia and the Space Trilogy. Others know him for his books in apologetics, including Mere Christianity and The Problem of Pain. But few know him for his scholarly work as a professor of medieval and Renaissance literature. What shaped the mind of this great thinker? Jason Baxter argues that Lewis was deeply formed not only by the words of scripture and his love of ancient mythology, but also by great books, including medieval literature. For this undeniably modern Christian, authors like Dante and Boethius provided a worldview that was relevant to the challenges of the contemporary world. Here, readers will encounter an unknown figure to guide them in their own journey, C.S. Lewis the medievalist. Now, I did listen to the podcast episode from the Literary Life podcast with Jason Baxter and was so intrigued and could just listen to him talk about C.S. Lewis and all the different things to do with literature all day. If you don't know, Jason Baxter is a professor. He is a professor of fine arts and humanities, and he's also written The Beginner's Guide to Dante's Divine Comedy, which I do own, and when I eventually read the Divine Comedy, I will read that alongside. And yeah, he's a very fascinating person, so I'm very intrigued to see what this book is all about, and I'm nervous, but excited. This next book, I am so excited about it, and I do plan on reading it very soon, and that is A Menagerie of Dragons by Christina Bear. It is the first book in her new series, the Gilded Age of Dragons series. I just finished her Secrets of Ormdale series, which is all about dragons set in the late Victorian era, and this book is about one of the side characters from that series named Una, and it's her story in the Edwardian period. So she's a bit older now, and I have heard that there are kind of ties to Little Women, and Christina Bear just has a way of writing her stories. They suck you right in. The characters are just so heartwarming, and I am so excited. This book brought me so much joy, and it was a lovely gift from my incredible friend Elizabeth. Elizabeth, thank you so much. You have no idea the joy that I'm feeling just looking at it right now. It is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that cover. I'm so excited. It is set in the same world in Ormdale in England. It's a fictional town in England in 1910, and there are dragons, and it's just such a delight. This whole world is such a delight, all these characters, and I'm so excited to read this. And we get to say hello again to some other side characters from the Ormdale series, so very excited. And I was also gifted Morning and Evening by Charles Spurgeon, and it's revised and updated by Alistair Begg. This one was a gift from my amazing friend Amanda from Book Lover Amanda. Thank you so much, Amanda. This one is a year-long devotional. So as you can see, we have January 1st. You read the morning devotion and then the evening devotion. And I am going to do my absolute best to stick to a daily reading from this alongside my Bible reading, which I have to admit is not always every day. You know, I'm trying to be more intentional with that, but I feel like this will be a good motivator. And I love how Spurgeon writes, and I'm just so excited. I think some of them are straight up just his thoughts and his thoughts on different passages. And then some of them are prayers as well. Like the evening for January 1st is a prayer, and oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Amanda. This is going to be so enriching to my walk with God. I already know it, and I'm so beyond grateful. Thank you. Biblical fiction is one of the genres that I really started my reading journey with, and it will always have a special place in my heart. And I don't read enough anymore, and I really need to make a change in that regard, because there are so many amazing biblical fiction books out there that I still haven't read, by Tessa Afshar, by Connie Lynn Cassette, by Misu Andrews, my favorite Christian fiction, biblical fiction authors. And my grandma, she gifted me Leading Philippi by Jennifer Jennings. I have never heard of this author before. I believe it is self-published. It looks like she's an indie biblical fiction author. And I am so intrigued, and I read the first couple pages, and the writing already captured my interest, the dialogue and everything. The writing seems pretty good so far. And it says, in the raging sea of fear, Epaphroditus finds his faith. In the bustling colony of Philippi, Epaphroditus, the son of a traveling merchant, finds himself ensnared in the threads of destiny. Blessed with wealth and privilege, his life is shadowed by a prophecy whispered by one of Aphrodite's priestesses. A grim fate aboard a ship awaits Epaphroditus. Living vicariously through his best friend Luke, a compassionate physician traversing the seas to aid the afflicted, Epaphroditus grapples with the threat of mortality and the uncertainty of his future. When a bold traveler named Paul arrives, bearing tales of a humble craftsman from Nazareth named Jesus, Epaphroditus finds himself drawn into a journey of faith. Join him on his extraordinary odyssey, where he discovers the transformative power of grace and the strength to battle fear with faith. Dare to embark on a journey that will stir your soul and ignite your faith as the letter of Philippians comes to life. This sounds so good. I'm so excited. And it is the first book in a series as well, book 1. So this brought me so much joy. And again, it was a gift from my grandma, who loves biblical fiction, and she really instilled a love of reading in me. She's a huge reason why I read today. And I'm just so excited about this book. So thank you to my incredible grandma. One of my sisters gifted me with a gift card, and I used that to buy 2 books here. And the first one is The Romance of the Forest by Anne Radcliffe. I shared the Sicilian Romance earlier in the video, and I thought I would add another Anne Radcliffe book to my collection, so I got that one. And I also got Man and Wife by Wilkie Collins. I know Bethany from Bethany Brings Books read this pretty recently and enjoyed it, and I just haven't read Wilkie Collins in a while. It's been quite a bit. So I've read a few of his books and really enjoyed all that I've read by him, and I really need to read more. So that is Man and Wife. I'm very excited. It is a bit on the longer side, but I'm looking forward to it. And I have 4 more books to talk about that were all gifts from my brother, and I am just so grateful to him as well. There are so many Oxford World's Classics editions in this book haul, which makes me so happy. I love this edition so much. But he got me Confessions by St. Augustine. I cannot wait to read this. In this, St. Augustine tells his story of faith, basically, and it's translated by Henry Chadwick. So St. Augustine, I don't know if it was Latin he would have written it in, but he lived in the 300s. He was in the early church, and I'm so intrigued by this. I cannot wait to read it. Another Oxford classic, we have Mary Elizabeth Braddon's Aurora Floyd. I have read Lady Audley's Secret by her and really enjoyed it, so I'm excited to have another Mary Elizabeth Braddon book to add to my collection. And last but not least, we have 2 books that are both Arthurian, and my brother had no idea that I was planning on doing some sort of Arthurian, exploration in 2026. He had absolutely no idea, and he picked out 2 books that are Arthurian for me, and I just about squealed when I opened the box. We first have Mary Stewart's The Crystal Cave. Mary Stewart is very much known for her romantic suspense, and she wrote mostly in the mid-19th century, but this is her retelling, I guess, of Arthurian legend about Merlin and his rise to power. I am so excited, and it's also the first book in a series, so that is The Crystal Cave. And last but not least, we have the iconic retelling of Arthurian legend in The Once and Future King by T.H. White, a classic novel of King Arthur. It is a series, I believe, of 3 stories, and they're bound up in this edition. I guess it's more than 3. It says it's The Sword in the Stone, The Witch in the Wood, The Ill-Made Knight, The Candle in the Wind, and The Book of Merlin. So that is the final book, and again, he had no idea. Absolutely no idea. He just picked them from my wish list, and I could not have been more excited. But friends, those are all the books that I've acquired over the last few months. It's probably one of the biggest book hauls I've done ever. and I am definitely taking a step back from book buying in the new year. I'm not setting myself an official book buying ban where I have rules and yada yada, but I really need to scale it back. I have a goal of getting my physical TBR to less than a quarter of the total number of books I own. Right now, I'm just under half. So like 2/3 to almost half of the books that I own are unread. I want to get that down by the end of the year to a quarter if I can. I'm not going to be too strict, but I really want to read from my bookshelves, especially now that I have so many new books to add. I really need to get cracking on my physical TBR. But anyways, friends, that is it for this very long video. Thank you all so much if you've stuck around to the end. I appreciate you all for watching. I appreciate you all for being here. And I will see you all in my next video whenever I am able to film and upload. But please do leave a comment below. I love talking to you all in the comment section. It just brings me so much joy. Thank you again so much for being here and for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.